Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're super excited to jump right into our Career Spotlight of the Week. This is our special series where we break down emerging, high-potential professions for students. You know, choosing the right career is easily one of the biggest, most important decisions in a student's entire journey. And at Aspire Roots, our whole mission is to help you explore paths based on research, your natural strengths, and your genuine interests, rather than just blindly following whatever trend is popular right now. So today, we're putting the spotlight on a career that is absolutely exploding right here in India, game designing. Okay, let's dive into this. To give you a complete roadmap today, we're going to cover 6 key areas: what game designing actually is, the daily tasks involved, the essential skills you need, helpful school subjects, the future demand, and finally, how this exact career is bringing Indian culture alive on a global stage. All right, Section 1, what is game designing? Let's clear up some common misconceptions right off the bat. A lot of people just assume game designing is drawing cool characters or sitting in a dark room writing complex code. But actually, that belongs to the artists and the programmers. Game designing is really the craft of deciding how a game feels in your hands. It's about setting the rules, fine-tuning those challenge levels, and creating those small, super satisfying rewards. It's literally the psychology of blending storytelling, art, and logic to make sure a player keeps coming back for just one more round. Think about Candy Crush for a second. I mean, it's played in almost every single Indian household, right? Now compare that to some random Match 3 app you downloaded once and then deleted 5 minutes later. They both have you swapping colored tiles on a grid. But Candy Crush? It has perfect timing. The levels feel fair, and you get that incredibly satisfying little sound when you win. That is not an accident. That is the result of brilliant, careful game design.
Moving on to Section 2. What do game designers actually do? Let's look at a real-world scenario.
So what does this look like on a daily basis? Well, meet Arjun. He works as a game designer at a bustling studio in Bengaluru. Now, his morning doesn't just start with playing video games for fun. It actually starts with analyzing a report from last night's playtest. And the data is clearly showing that test players are getting completely stuck on level 14 of their new mobile game, getting frustrated and just quitting the app altogether. So to fix this, Arjun first walks through the level himself exactly like a player would. He quickly realizes that the difficulty spikes way too fast. It's just unfair. So he sketches a fix out on a whiteboard, maybe moving a checkpoint a bit earlier and adding a small reward right before the really hard part. Then he blocks out this rough change in the game engine so the team can actually feel it. And he does all of this without having to write the final polished code. The human element of testing is so crucial here. By the afternoon, Arjun has his colleagues play this new rough version Colt, totally blind with no explanation. He just watches their faces. When a colleague finally beats level 14 on the first try and naturally smiles, he knows he nailed it. That small reaction tells Arjun way more than any spreadsheet ever could. And once he knows it's fun, he hands that logic off to the programmer. All right, Section 3, Essential Skills. Let's talk about the specific traits you actually need to succeed here. What personal traits does a student need to thrive in such a dynamic, creative role? First off, you absolutely need systems thinking and storytelling. Systems thinking basically means seeing how changing one tiny rule shifts the entire game. It's like moving one piece in a giant puzzle and watching the whole picture change. And storytelling? Well, that's essential because you're building immersive worlds and compelling characters that make people desperate to find out what happens next. You also really need empathy and clear communication. You have to be able to step out of your own head and put yourself in the shoes of your players. Can you imagine exactly how your younger cousin or even your grandmother feels while playing? Plus, you have to be able to clearly communicate the abstract ideas in your brain so that both the artists and the programmers know exactly what they need to build. Which brings us to a huge one: comfort with criticism. You have to be okay with hearing that your level is boring, unfair, or frankly, just unfun. A great game designer doesn't get defensive about this stuff. They take that feedback, go straight back to the drawing board, and fix it again and again until it works perfectly. Constant iteration is just a massive part of a game designer's daily life. Next up, Section 4, Helpful Subjects. How to build your foundation in school. So what subject combinations should a student actually choose right now to prepare for this path? Core subjects like computer science, psychology, mathematics, English, or other languages for the storytelling aspect, and fine arts all provide a phenomenal foundation. Notice how this perfectly combines cold logic with human behavior and visual art? Game design literally sits right at the intersection of understanding systems through math and coding and understanding people through psychology and art.
Section 5, Future Demand and Salaries. Let's look at the actual industry landscape. A big question we get is this career actually viable and financially secure in the Indian market? The short answer is absolutely yes. Demand is growing steadily alongside India's booming gaming industry. Local hubs are thriving right now. Studios like SuperGaming in Pune, Nazara Technologies, and Moonfrog Labs are actively, eagerly hiring for this role. Plus, massive global studios are increasingly running their core development teams right out of India, which is creating a wealth of opportunities.
So let's talk numbers. Entry-level pay in India typically kicks off between 3 to 6 lakhs a year. But as you gain experience and move into those senior roles, salaries can easily jump to 15 to 25 lakhs a year or more, depending on the studio and the scale of the game. It is also one of the most portable careers out there. Remote and freelance opportunities are rapidly opening up across mobile, console, and even virtual reality projects all over the globe.
Finally, Section 6, Bringing Indian Culture Alive, Telling Our Stories on a Global Stage. Game design is such a powerful medium for bringing rich Indian culture alive on an interactive, global scale. For example, that Pune-based studio I mentioned, SuperGaming, they collaborated with the incredibly popular Indian band Bikadam Bridge to create a playable character named Agni Ragam. Now, instead of just picking a generic soldier or standard superhero, the design team built a vigilante deeply rooted in the actual Indian classical dance form of Kathakali. This culturally rich character was dropped straight into their fast-paced battle royale game, Indus. And get this, Indus has already crossed a massive 6 million downloads. That is 6 million people across the world actively interacting with a piece of authentic Indian heritage. This brilliantly illustrates the true power of a game designer. Sometimes it's deciding exactly how a piece of Indian culture becomes something a player controls with their thumbs. You aren't just making a fun game. You have the potential for incredible cultural impact, bringing authentic Indian stories to a massive, highly interactive audience worldwide. Ultimately, game designing means getting paid to constantly ask one single question over and over, would this be fun for someone else? Think about it. If you have ever sat around and redesigned a board game's rules with your friends because the original way felt boring or unfair, you've actually already done a version of this work. You already have the instinct. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If you were the game designer, what would you build first?